We collectively, CrossFitters, affiliates, trainers, CrossFitters are the leading force in the world today in the war on chronic disease. 70% of the people that die from chronic disease around the world. Medicine has no solution. You do. The shortage is in professional trainers, not clients. Challenging, successfully fighting chronic disease, it is you and you alone. We sit collectively in unique possession of an elegant solution to the world's most vexing problem. And I'm going to tell you that the American Beverage Association is the enemy. That's the other side of the whole effort. Excellence is obvious to everyone. It's just that easy.
Announcement is brought to you in part by the CrossFit Affiliates.
There's Susa again. I'm just playing that clip because I really like that. It evokes emotion into, like, I guess why I can hear myself in Justin's office. So I just pause for a second there. Maybe if Justin hears this, he'll come shut my door for me. The reason why I like being a CrossFit coach and the difference you can make in people's lives, and I think Susa does it, he put together those clips and did a great job of, I guess, just making it, like I said, evoke emotion. Thank you. Evoke emotion in that moment or watching that. And until I have something better to play at the start to just like ease into this, I think that's a great video to put in there. So if you enjoyed that, give this a like. Give me a subscribe. Today, simple nutrition tips. I guess this stuff feels easy for me to talk about when I'm not inspired to talk about anything else in the way of fitness or exercise or whatever it might be. So my choice today, simple nutrition tips, because I just, it seems easy to talk about because it is simple. It's not always easy because there's a lot of confusing stuff out there in the world, but I definitely do believe that it is simple to do once you have the right knowledge or tools for it. Hello, Matt. Thanks for jumping into the comments, letting me know you're there. And Justin coming in via the camera live. Let's go. So I was, trying to decide whether I would answer a question today or just talk about nutrition. And then I was scrolling through the list and I thought, well, one of Eilish's questions probably perfectly aligns with this. I'll just pop it in the comments so I can bring it up. Justin's also here as lucky camera strap. So of my 3 viewers, Matt, Justin, and Justin, I'll take that. Thanks so much for being in here. All right. Eilish's question was, what are 3 to 5 healthy habits you would recommend everyone do from couch bum to professional athlete? So this conversation today is just kind of going to, I guess, touch over a few different things, but probably be more specific around nutrition knowledge, with that conversation kind of answering this question. So even if I don't give 3 to 5 healthy habits today, or maybe I'll wrap the show up with that, there will be healthy habits in here or knowledge to assist with your own healthier habits, I guess, for lack of a better term. All right, so where to start? I continue to have this internal debate with myself. Marketing on packaged foods always seems to surprise me. I don't know why I expect any different, because the marketing is meant to sell the product. And so the marketing will say whatever the marketing needs to say to make more sales. Me too. Laughy face. I don't know if that's in reference to something I said or not, but cool. I'm going to start with, I don't know if I spoke about it on a previous YouTube live that I did, but I did put a post up on Instagram a couple of weeks back that was just comparing Weet-Bix and Vita-Brits, because I was shocked to see that Weet-Bix, which is probably the leader in the market of wheat-styled biscuits. Okay, let me pause there. Matt's second account, Matt Boyle and Matt Boyle 86. So I appreciate that. I've got 4 viewers, and I'm going to guess that 2 of them are Matt and 2 of them are Justin. Thanks to Justin piecing that out for me. Thanks, Matt's second account. So I appreciate the ×2 duplicates in there, making things look good for me. So Weet-Bix, where's this picture I opened up? Let me share my screen. If you are watching, you'll be able to see. If you're not watching, I'll talk through it anyway. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. A quick rabbit hole, I should say. It wasn't anything crazy. Oops, wrong one. This is fun. I started on, so a couple of weeks ago, someone said to me, maybe I'll start there. We'll get there. I'll get there, guys. Share this tab instead. Someone said to me, I bought those protein balls, the Golden Gaytime ones, because they're high in protein. And I thought, I don't know about that or not. Anyway, the protein balls were Macro Mike's Golden Gaytime Protein Indulgence Ball. And on the front of the packet, it says, let me zoom in there so it's clearer for everyone. Protein indulgence balls, only 177 calories, 7 grams of protein. And when they told me that there was 7 grams of protein in the ball, I was kind of like, it's not a lot of protein in what's meant to be a protein ball. And this is where knowledge or awareness of what is high protein and like what sources of food are protein sources versus maybe carb or fat macro sources is important to have a good understanding of, because one of my, I guess, healthy habits or tips for people to be healthier is make sure you add protein to every meal that you have. The issue that's ran into there is if you are not sure what is protein or what is a protein source, you might see something like this, protein indulgence ball, and be like, that's a protein ball, that's protein, that's what I'm meant to add to my diet. And it says it's got 7 grams of protein in it. But when you're comparing that 7 grams of protein to only 177 calories, it's actually not very good bang for buck. And just as a bit of a reference, and I know it's really, some people don't like chicken breast because it's plain, but you can add flavor to it. But just as a bit of reference point for you, where did I write it down? So I had the numbers in front of me. So these protein balls, one protein ball is 177 calories. You could have 110 grams of chicken breast, and that would give you 176 calories. And 32 grams of protein. So in terms of like protein sources and bang for buck, this protein ball, while it's advertising protein, is not a great deal of protein. So 7 grams for 177 calories is quite a high calorie intake for a low amount of protein, if that's the purpose of this ball. To use the example of one boiled chicken, you get almost 7 grams out of one boiled chicken, and that would be about 55 calories. So it's not even comparable in that way. So if you're trying to add protein to your food, it's important to understand protein sources. So you're talking about meats, eggs. There is, in ways, dairy can be protein, but a lot of the time it's probably more a fat macro than it is a protein macro, but there are ways to use that in conjunction with other macros to increase that protein intake in some meals you have to. So that was the first thing that caught me by surprise, because I guess I am aware of this kind of stuff, but you forget, or I often forget, that sometimes the rest of the world, or not the rest of the world, but there's just people out there that use marketing to achieve their goals without realizing that the marketing is probably leading them astray. So it's actually, when you look at this protein ball, when you look at the macro breakdown, 7 grams of protein per ball, 9 grams of fat per ball, and 10 grams of carbs. So if you were to label this ball anything, it would be a carb source or a fat source before it's a protein source. So it's interesting to look at that stuff and break it down. Justin says, do you think calling yourself Macro Mike then selling stuff like this is dodgy? Well, it's interesting. I was trying to work out, Justin, what maybe happens here. And again, when we talk about marketing, because I'm going to talk about reading the Australian standards for how to market products too. This says Macro Mike Protein Indulgence Ball. And I'm wondering, sometimes it's like, is the protein in reference to the ball, or is it Macro Mike Protein? This is an indulgence ball. And so it's interesting because it's not very clear really on that label, other than it says protein indulgence ball and 7 grams of protein, as to whether or not they're trying to sell this as a high protein thing or not. Matt says, look at the ingredient list for something so small. Yep. And that's the thing too. You can, where's the ingredient list on this? The ingredient list here, if you can see it, if you can't see it, there's quite a number of things listed. It would take me a little while to read these out. You can imagine right now, if you had that ball and you saw all of these ingredients listed, nut blend, dairy-free milk chocolate, all that stuff's in the brackets there, protein blend, brackets, Macromike's protein blend, brackets, soluble tapioca fiber, brown rice syrup, vegetable glycerin, tapioca syrup, almonds, coconut, like blah, 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 as a protein marketed item versus chicken breast cooked with olive oil and maybe salt and pepper. And you can already know there's 4 ingredients: chicken breast, olive oil, salt, pepper, compared to what you can see on this thing here. Justin says, I'm sure they're using protein as a sales tactic. I 100% agree, and there'll be some other examples I show shortly that is exactly that as well. Twitter, hello Twitter, thanks for joining. Yes, very much like the low-fat sales tactic of years gone by. Yes, and that's a perfect example. I'll pull this one up quickly if I can find it. I saw one day someone had balsamic vinegar on one of their salads, and the title of the balsamic vinegar was fat-free balsamic vinegar. And I thought, what an odd thing to say. Vinegar doesn't have fat in it, so of course it's fat-free. Unless you're adding oil to your balsamic vinegar dressing, it should have no fat in it. I wonder if I can find it now. Anyway, I'm trying to find that as an example because that's what came up. And I thought this is where marketing kind of gets you. There might be a salad dressing that says fat-free, like Twitter says low-fat sales tactics, where in fact that salad dressing never had fat in it in the first place, unless it was specifically, and using the balsamic, unless it was specifically a balsamic and olive oil dressing, in which case the fat in that dressing is the healthy versions of fat, because it's the olive oil. It's not the processed vegetable oils in there. And then obviously to be advertising it as, oh, here it is. Let me share this tab. Try and zoom in on this for you because you might not be able to see it. So the label on here, balsamic dressing, 99% fat-free, 25% less sugar. What? Why does balsamic vinegar have sugar in it in the first place? Like, they're my questions. And that's what is, it's like, what's this marketing trying to sell you? Well, balsamic dressing maybe with a higher price tag, and you think it's healthier because it says fat-free and less sugar. But you should be able to go out there in the world and buy balsamic vinegar that doesn't have fat or sugar in it. It is balsamic vinegar. So let's see the ingredients list here. Water, balsamic vinegar, white vinegar, sugar. So it's still got added sugar, lemon juice concentrate, salt, garlic, and a few other bits and pieces in there, and a natural sweetener. So it's got sugar and a natural sweetener. Sugars are 8.9 grams per 100 mils or 1.8 per serving. So not terrible in the way of sugar, but a balsamic vinegar is not something that needs added sugar to it. So it's like, why is there sugar in that? What's the point of that? Now, let me find this web page that I want to share across. Here we go. Understanding food labels. So obviously the government puts documents out there. That's how they kind of, well, it's probably not even the government. Whoever it is puts their documents on there about how things are advertised or marketed. This is a how to understand food labels. I'm going to come back to that because that's not the one I wanted to share. I'm trying to find the one which reads that marketing protein in a food product just has to have, come on, open up for me. The product has to be able to show 5 grams or more of protein per serve for it to be claimed as a high protein product. So let me see if I can find this. And that's the interesting thing, because if we were to use, gosh, that's not it either. How unprepared. Well, you'll just have to take my word for it. The Food Standards Australia and New Zealand, so FSANZ, are the ones that put out the food standard codes. And the code for advertising or marketing high protein foods, so adding that description to your packet or your whatever the food comes in, all that is said is the food has to have more than 5 grams of protein per serve for it to be a high or even classed as a protein source, which is crazy because going back to that Macro Mike thing, like that's exactly what that was. This one ball has 7 grams of protein for 177 calories, but it's not even the main macro source in that item. It is the least as protein, but because it's got more than 5 grams per serve, it can get added or advertised as a protein ball for that reason. Hello, Jeff. Good to have you in here. There is an ad going around for Weet-Bix. Weet-Bix Bites. I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff. Right now with 10 grams of protein per serve, but it's caramel flavor. What's the new sugar content? I actually went to the supermarket and took a photo of this today because I want to talk about Weet-Bix, Vita-Brits, and then I saw this and I was like, I want to talk about these Weet-Bix Bites as well. Twitter says, I never looked at the Weet-Bix Bites. They only have 10 grams of protein. And again, this is the thing. It's like, only 10 grams of protein. It's not a protein source. If you're only getting 10 grams of protein from a serve, like you should be getting at least 30 grams in your meal. So what else do you need to add to your meal to make sure you're getting enough protein for that meal to make it a balanced meal? And if you're using something like the Weet-Bix that have 10 grams per serve, you would need to have 3 serves of that or a decent amount of milk with it to bring it up to that 30 grams of protein for that breakfast or lunch or whatever option it is. So let me open these tabs because this is the rant I wanted to go on today, which was where we started all of this. I got stuck on health star rating. So Weet-Bix, it's annoying that zooms in. There we go. Let's do this. Jeff says the ad, I wonder if I can pull the ad up and we can watch it. The ad has a young male riding a mountain bike over jumps, eating them like he is Pac-Man. So what is the purpose of the ad? To sell more product. It sounds like a fun ad. I'm sure it would sell more of their Weet-Bix Bites, but what are you actually getting when you buy the Weet-Bix Bite? So I'm going to start, let's open that up first. Weet-Bix Bite. Where's the tab that's got that? Share this tab. Click on them. So here's the product. Weet-Bix, 10 grams of protein in their bites, high in protein. So we just discussed that. There's a little arrow up there. So that means like asterisks. There's some notes to go with this. High in fibers and whole grains, high in iron. Now, as Jeff said, it's caramel crunch flavored. Now, let me see if this is the one that would... Oof. It's a bit blurry, but we can look at this. So per serving size is 50 grams. That would say to me if it's the standard size Weet-Bix in that box, then that's about 2.5 to 3 Weet-Bix. If they're smaller versions, then whatever 50 grams of that is. So let's just roll with 3 Weet-Bix for this example, just for the sake of it. 193 calories. 10 grams of protein. So using the Macro Mike ball again, it's very similar in total calories. The protein is only 3 grams difference. So is it really a protein source? Well, when we look at carbohydrates, 33 per serve or 66 per 100 grams. And then we look at, where's fats? Fats is low. And that's to be expected. When this is a carbohydrate source, why would you expect the fat to be high? If the fat was high, the calories would be significantly higher too. Ingredients of this product: whole grain wheat, makes sense. Sugar, second ingredient. Why is there so much added sugar to that? Soy protein, so they've added protein to it to bring the protein per serve up to that 10 gram, the assumption would be, so that they can advertise it as high protein, even though it is a carbohydrate source. Flavors, salt, barley malt extract, there's also sweetener in there, and then added vitamins. Now, the thing with the Wheat Bix, this one's got a 4.5-star rating. The standard Wheat Bix box gets a 5-star rating, and this is where I get confused. And not confused in the way of like, I don't know what I'm looking at, confused in the way of like, how do you end up with a star rating on your product? So health star rating of 5. Now the front of this box says 97% whole grain, low sugar. Why does it say low sugar and not no added sugar or no sugar? But in fact, it says low sugar. So when you read that box, the first thing you think with that layout and that marketing is this is a good choice for a breakfast cereal because it's low in sugar compared to Cocoa Pops or Nutri-Grain or Fruit Loops or any of the like really obvious added sugar cereals. This one says low sugar. So immediately the marketing says to you, this is a better choice. Until you start to think about the fact that why is sugar added to it? What's the deal with that? Gosh, these don't come up very well on here. All right, so this is the nutritional information. Stay on there. For a serving size here, which is 33 grams, that's 2 biscuits. So the assumption again would be if you had 3 biscuits, you're looking around that 50 gram mark, but we'll work off what it says for a serving size, 117 calories, 4 grams of protein. That makes sense. Fat is low, under 1 gram. That makes sense. Carbohydrates, 21.7 grams per serve. That makes sense. It's a Wheat Bix. It's a wheat source. Sugars, 1 gram. Total 3 per 100. So sugar is low in this, but it's still added. When we look at the ingredient list for the Wheat Bix, whole grain wheat, raw sugar. So raw sugar is the second ingredient on a Wheat Bix ingredient list. Salt, barley malt extract, vitamins. Now the question becomes, how can something have a 5-star rating if it's got added sugar? That's my question. Compared to, and just to flip across, because this is what I did my comparison with, the Vitabrits. So the Vitabrits packaging, let's click into that. Clearly on the front, no added sugar. That's pretty obvious. They don't look like they put a whole lot of effort into marketing their product in the way Wheat Bix do. And at the end of the day, you can probably imagine who's making more money from selling more product based off the marketing that they do. But Vitabrits very clearly here, simple, natural goodness, 99% whole grain, no added sugar. And when I go to the ingredients list for this, it's whole grain wheat and salt. There's 2 ingredients in Vitabrits. There's nothing else added to it. And I could only guess without going on a really deep dive before coming on here, that Vitabrits with their 4.5-star rating versus Wheat Bix with their 5-star rating is based off the fact that Wheat Bix got the extra 0.5 star because they've got extra added vitamins to their product. And that would be my guess as to why they get 5 stars over the Vitabrits 4.5 stars. But my question is, how can you have a perfect 5-star health star rating if you're adding sugar to a product that doesn't need sugar added to it? So food for thought there. When we talk about the nutrition label here, gosh, doesn't zoom in very well. 33 grams per serve, which is 2 biscuits. So that's the same as Wheat Bix. Energy is 485 kilojoules. 4.2 grams of protein, 21.1 grams of carbs, 0.6 grams of sugar, or 1.7 grams per 100 grams, which is half of what's in the Wheat Bix. And the fat, obviously, under that 1 gram marker. So 485 kilojoules there compared to, zoom in, 488 kilojoules. So same, but one of them has added sugar to it and one of them does not. One of them has a 5-star health rating for what reason, I don't know. And the other one has a 4.5-star rating. So to come back to those, share that tab. That's why it's crazy, this stuff. It's like this product is marketed for you to be like, oh, this is good for me because it's got 10 grams of protein. Assumption per serve, because that's what it has to be. They can market it as protein because it's got more than 5 grams per serve. But you know what? If Weet-Bix changed their, if Vita-Brits changed their serving size from 2 biscuits to 3 biscuits, they would be able to advertise their Vita-Brits as high in protein as well, or source of protein, or something along those lines, depending on the nuance of the wording of marketing. So it's a reminder to not always get caught up in what's on the front of the packet, but rather what's the goal of this product? What's the purpose of this product? What's it actually for? Are you choosing Weet-Bix protein bites as a way to get your protein in? And if that's the case, then one of those healthy habits or tips that I would add is, hey, can you get your protein from meat sources or eggs? If that's not the case, or maybe you're a vegetarian or a vegan, can you get it more from whole food sources like your legumes rather than advertised protein sources? Because I haven't looked this up, but I'm sure that even legumes would have a higher amount of protein per serve for less calories than what even these Weet-Bix protein bites have. Normal Weet-Bix, Jeff, normal Weet-Bix, 3 grams sugar per 100 grams. Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like, say that, and it's not a lot of sugar. The question is, why does it have added sugar? So coming back to share this tab, the nutritional information. So this is like the Victorian government's guidance on like how to understand food labels. What to look for. Don't rely on health claims on labels as your guide. Instead, learn a few simple label reading tips to choose healthy foods and drinks for yourself. You can also use the label to help you lose weight by limiting foods that are high in energy per serve. And down here under the sugar section, it says, avoiding sugar completely is not necessary, but try to avoid larger amounts of added sugars. If sugar content per 100 grams is more than 15, check that sugar or alternative names for added sugar is not listed high on the ingredients list. So really easy rule of thumb, if it's more than 15 grams per 100 grams, so 100 grams or 100 mils on your product, that'll give you a good gauge. But also think about the food that you're buying. Like if you know that Weet-Bix are wheat biscuits and you're getting them for a carb source as wheat, does it need to have added sugar? And if it does have added sugar, why does it have added sugar? Is that necessary? And Jeff goes on to say, he's doing all the heavy lifting for me here, which is great. So the normal Weet-Bix, 3 grams per 100 gram compared to that caramel bite version. So this protein bites, which has 19.2 grams of sugar per 100 grams. And so coming back to, again, this page here, 19.2 is higher than the recommended 15 grams or less per 100 grams. So that's a starting point to look at that. It is interesting. I'll come back to that in a second, actually. For as long as I've been around the fitness industry, Weet-Bix has always been sugary version of Vita-Brits. I would believe that too, Twitter, because we grew up with Vita-Brits. We didn't grow up with Weet-Bix. And I would imagine that that's why. Because it was the, for lack of a better term, Vita-Brits are the healthier version of a wheat biscuit. And Jeff says they don't have a song. So yes, that's where, I mean, marketing comes into it so easily, doesn't it? We were also discussing, I'll just read this first. Marketing to teen males. The boys are always talking about the amount of protein in things. Some talk about eating protein before gym and avoiding carbs in all food. And I mean, especially teenage boys, they're probably the ones that can get away with a higher carbohydrate diet than most other people because they're quite active through the day. They're still growing. They can eat and use that fuel so easily. Whereas as we get older and we're more sedentary in life and we do less and we move less throughout the day, limiting our carbohydrate intake. And that's not eating carbs. It's just being smart about the kind of carbs you eat and being understanding the volume of carbs that you eat. as I've said over and over again in the CrossFit space, CrossFit is an anti-carb. In fact, 40% carb, 30% protein, 30% fat is the starting or baseline macro breakdown for nutrition guidance in the CrossFit space. So CrossFit's never been anti-carbs, but it has been, hey, off the couch, off the carbs, and people often confuse that. But what that means is, hey, let's restrict or limit or try and avoid, where possible, refined carbohydrates, so processed foods, added sugars, and let's get moving more regularly so that we can keep the calorie in, calorie out, energy burn, energy stored, balanced to avoid weight gain. What's Twitter say? Okay, so here is why. Quick Google. Vitabrits and Weet-Bix are both now owned by Sanitarium. Well, in that case, Weet-Bix Sanitarium have no reason to sell their Vitabrits more than their Weet-Bix. God, it's a funny word to say over and over again. Weet-Bix, if they own both of them. Are the teens getting tricked by products like this, though? Well, let's talk about the Ironman stuff. So Justin brought up to me earlier, like, did you say Nutrigrain? Nutrigrain is Ironman fuel. And that was an interesting one too. Let me find Nutrigrain. If they were actually avoiding carbs, they wouldn't buy any high protein cereals. Well, that's true. Unless they don't understand that the cereal is still mainly a carbohydrate source more than it is a protein source. All right, Nutrigrain. Let's share this. Gosh, reduced to clear. Why? Let's see what this brings up. Front of the box, real nourishment, protein, iron, fiber. So buzzwords there, large pack. I think there's one that specifically said more marketing things. If I can zoom in on this and scroll down, it's not letting me scroll down. These are just interesting things to look at, though. Let me find the ingredients list for this so we can see it together. Ingredients, cereals, and then what they are in brackets, sugar. Second item on that list too, wheat protein, maltodextrin, so another version of what turns into glucose in the body and is used as energy. Maltodextrin is a highly processed white powder carbohydrate derived from corn, rice, potato, or wheat starch, commonly used as a filler, thickener, or preservative in processed foods. While not sweet, it is rapidly digested and has a high GI, making it a useful form for quick energy and sports nutrition. So if you were to describe, where's that tab there? If you're using Nutrigrain for a quick form of fuel, then the maltodextrin serves a purpose there. Is it necessary? Probably not. Now, when we go to nutritional information for the Nutrigrain, 24 grams of sugar per 100 grams is the sugar content added to Nutrigrain. So fuel for active bodies, it's hard to justify that much sugar added to be a healthy choice of fuel when there are certainly a number of other ways you can get fuel for your active body. What else did I have open here? I'll come back to this tab because it's always interesting. If you know your nutritional labels, like there's some interesting things here too, some things that I've never really worried so much about, and I wonder if that's because as Twitter said earlier, the low fat sort of era is still lingering around, but it's got some information on fat as well. Total fat, generally choose foods with less than 10 grams per 100 gram. For milk, yogurt, and ice cream, choose less than 2 grams per 100 gram. And for cheeses, choose less than 15 grams of fat per 100 grams. Then it talks about saturated fat as well. But somewhere else I read, it specifically said choose low-fat options. And I worry that we're stuck in that era of low-fat eating, in where the fat is taken out of food to keep the calories low, but then sugar or sweeteners or things are added to bring the flavor back. And if the fat wasn't taken out of the food in the first place, the flavor would have been there. And I think fat gets discredited a lot. It is a high density calorie source, fats are. However, it also keeps you feeling fuller for longer. So while it might provide you with more calories, the assumption is with those fats, because they take longer to digest, you actually stay fuller for longer, which is why when we're talking about eating healthy, meals should be balanced. So 40, 30, 30, 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fat for a nice balanced meal so that it keeps you feeling fuller for longer with all three macro sources. And then the more whole the food is, so meats, veg, nuts, seeds, the less out of the packet it is, the more grown that it is, the more healthier the vitamins and minerals are that are coming with it. What have we got here? We did that one. Justin says maybe the regulation should say you can't mention protein if there's more sugar than protein. I agree. I don't think you should be able to advertise high protein if there is another macro source that is higher than that. I think high protein or source of protein should be reserved for protein sources. Precision nutrition proteins. Let me pull this picture up. I reference this a lot. If I can get it open for you and to share it. Nope. Share this tab. So a lot of the nutrition stuff that I did is through Precision Nutrition, and they have essentially a cheat sheet for your macros, so protein, fats, and carbs, and a list of things that say eat more, eat some, eat less, and sort of how to focus your attention if you're looking for a protein source, or you're looking for a fat source, or if you're looking for a carbohydrate source. And so just using this as an example, because I've regularly referenced it for many people, Precision Nutrition, it says we recommend you emphasize minimally processed sources of lean protein. Most of your protein, about 80 to 90% of it, should come from the eat more section or the eat some section. And the other 10 to 20% can come from whichever column that you prefer. And who knows, maybe that other 10 to 20%, that's where you're deciding to put your macro protein ball in there, even though it's not really a source of protein more than it is a source of fat or carbohydrates. But you can see here animal-based proteins, and there's things like eggs and eggs whites, fish, duck, chicken, turkey, lean beef, lean pork, wild game, other meats, insects if you're into that, cultured cottage cheese, plain Greek yogurt, and then plant-based sources are listed there as well. And it specifically says the asterisk beside lentils, beans, and peas, so the legumes section, these only count as a protein source if you do not consume the other protein sources in this category. So if you are vegan, vegetarian, and these are sort of the only ways you get your protein in, you'll probably find your carbohydrates are also high, but these become your sources of protein that make up your macros during your daily diet or your eating. Then in those eat some sections, they're like fattier cuts of meat. So you can see here, you'd be looking at chicken breast in the eat more and chicken thigh in the eat some. Now that doesn't mean that you should always only eat chicken breast. There's certainly ways to balance your diet out with all of these things. In terms of when I'm eating, I will predominantly eat chicken thighs over chicken breast. I just like the flavor more. There's slightly more fat in them, but I find that helps keep me fuller for longer too. If I'm eating the same amount of chicken breast, I get hungrier sooner, and that's just because the satiation from it doesn't seem to hit me in the same way as a chicken thigh might. And then of course I eat less sections, so fried meats, processed meats, really high fatty cuts of meats, things like sausages, things like it says processed deli meats. What am I thinking of there? Like cabana, salami, stuff like that. Like, don't use them as your meat sources, but they can certainly be in there and add to it. But as it references, 10 to 20% would be more than heaps from your daily diet. Jeff says, just like how the low-fat diet is now high protein and they don't look at the carbs, cals in things. Yes. So, and this is where it's just marketing and how to sell something, because there's also people out there right now getting upset at the fact that, like, right now it's like we're in the protein era. It's like high protein, need protein, high protein, need protein. It's like, I like the fact that people are focusing on protein, but I don't like the fact that using the Macromike protein balls as an example, that's where they're going to get their protein, because that, as we discussed, is not a protein source. It's a carbohydrate source first, it's a fat source second, it's a protein source for third. You could argue it's pretty close to being balanced in terms of a meal, but I wouldn't call it a meal because it wasn't under 200 calories. But the perfect example would be if you're trying to get more protein into your diet, coming back to that Macromike ball that has 7 grams of protein for 177 calories, you could have 100 grams, where is it? 100 grams of chicken thigh specifically, around 177 calories, and you'd get 24 grams of protein out of that. So you would get 3 to 4 times the protein for the same amount of calories just from 100 grams of chicken thigh rather than having this one ball. Same calories, triple the protein. Remember when eggs used to give you high cholesterol? It's interesting that you say that too. While I was in the supermarket, there was another thing I took a photo of, and this is just, let me see if I can bring this one up as well. This is just another example of how crazy marketing can be, and how what a box says might make you choose one product over another. All right, is that sharing? Yes. So while I was looking at all the Weet-Bix that were there and taking photos of them, this one here was on the top shelf. So obviously where it's placed in the supermarket too dictates how much money they've put into selling this product to you. Vitabrits are on the bottom shelf. This particular version of Weet-Bix is on the top shelf. The ones that are at eye level pay more to be there so that you're more likely to buy them because they're straight in front of your eye line. But these Weet-Bix, cholesterol lowering, reduces cholesterol by up to 9%, clinically proven. I was like, what the hell is this? How can Weet-Bix that's got added sugar and added salt be cholesterol lowering? Because, you know, that's what everyone gets told. Reduce your salt and you'll reduce your cholesterol. Even though at the end of the day, if you've got a diet high in sugar, it doesn't matter how much you reduce your salt, your kidneys and your liver can't function in the way to remove all of the toxins from your body. And so limiting the sugar that you eat and having a healthy amount of salt is actually the better way to go about it. But I was just reading this box, and of course, you know, you pull up ChatGPT because you're like, hey, can you give me some quick answers here? And maybe they're biased, maybe they're not. But all I wanted to know was like, how come they can say this? And what did it tell me? Specifically, and again, this is where marketing can come into it. Where did it go? How can a food with added salt and sugar claim reduces cholesterol? And then I gave it the picture of the Weet-Bix, and it specifically said what you see on the box is based on the added ingredient plant sterols. So you can see at the bottom of the packaging, 2 Weet-Bix provides 2 grams of plant sterols. Plant sterols work because they block cholesterol absorption in the intestine. When you eat enough of them regularly, less cholesterol from food and bile gets absorbed into the bloodstream. And so this is actually what's reducing the cholesterol. So it's not eating the Weet-Bix that's doing it for you. It's eating the Weet-Bix that have the added plant sterols that is doing it for you. But yes, it's just really funny to be like, you read the front of this box and you go, they've done studies where people have eaten these particular Weet-Bix and it's reduced cholesterol, clinically proven. However, it's probably more of a case of clinically studies have shown plant sterols reduce cholesterol, and by adding 2 grams, which is the minimum required amount, to the Weet-Bix, we can say that these Weet-Bix reduce cholesterol. It's clinically proven. And so it's just pretty crazy to go round and around and around with how marketing can sell foods to you. And this particular one, 5-star rating. How does it get a 5-star rating when it's got added sugar? Someone answer that to me. How can something with added sugar get 5 stars? Just trying to find the ingredients list for this because it was quite long, really. Probably not that essential, though. Cholesterol lowering wheat bix. Oh, that's fun. I was putting cholesterol lowering in the Woolies, like online. Proactive margarine spread, probably because it's proven that what? I don't know. I'd have to go into that. They're probably using an example of people who eat butter have high cholesterol, not based off the butter, but based off what? Who knows? And so therefore margarine is better for you there. This Australia's own lower cholesterol, long life milk. So these things probably just have that same thing added into them. Anyway, go over here because that's what I get distracted. Ingredients list. Whole grain wheat, plant sterol esters. So that's the added item that lowers cholesterol or reduces absorption in the body. And then the third ingredient, which is, I guess, technically you could argue is the second ingredient really, is raw sugar. And the sugar in here is 2.9 grams per 100 grams. So it has the same amount of added sugar as what the standard Weet Bix do. And this is just where having a look at what's on the back of the packet or having a look at the nutritional information can just help you understand whether or not the marketing is just that marketing or whether it is telling you actually the benefits of this food product. It's got something to do with the fat content from because fat makes you fat, remember? Yes, Jeff, the classic fat makes you fat, which also isn't a thing. You need healthy fats in your diet to maintain healthy hormone function. Oops, wrong button. If you don't have healthy fats in your diet, you'll probably find your hormones don't function as well. If you don't have a balanced diet, it's hard to have healthy hormone function. Here we go. From ChatGPT about plant sterols. While effective at lowering LDL, and LDL is that one they call the bad cholesterol, they have not been shown in clinical trials to reduce the risk of heart attacks or strokes. Treating a number, not the actual issue. So lowering LDL readings, correlation with LDL, but not causation in reducing the risk of heart attacks. Sweet chili chicken cabana from Meats on Mitchell is amazing. And this is the thing, it's like Twitter says, you know, this particular cabana is amazing. It's as long as, and this is where it comes into it, if you're aware of what you're eating, you can make very informed decisions. If you know that it's great, but it's like a treat, amazing. If you are eating it 1, 2, 3 times a day, every single day, on top of a bunch of other things that are maybe not that optimal for you, and you think you're eating really well, then it could start being a case of like, are there ways we can be healthier here? And so that's where, you know, if I was to give a couple of simple nutrition tips, it's not about removing anything immediately from your diet. It's about, hey, am I getting enough protein? Add protein. If you don't know if you're getting enough protein or not, download a food tracking app, Easy Diet Diary, MyFitnessPal. There's even apps out there now that you can take a photo of your food. You don't even have to weigh it. You can just give it a rough, like take a photo, it'll have a look at it, AI will assess it. It'll then tell you, let's say it's scrambled eggs on toast. The photo of that would then be like scrambled eggs on toast, looks like this much egg, looks like this much toast. The assumption is it only knows what it can see, but it'll give you a nutritional breakdown based off what it can see. And then you can edit and say, there are 2 pieces of toast here, not 1. I put a slab of butter on this. So it has butter and quite a bit. And then you can start building a picture of, am I getting enough protein per meal? Am I getting 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal if I'm eating 3 or 4 meals a day? If that's not the case, number 1 tip, add protein to every meal that you have. Number 2 tip is add veg. And you notice the First 1 and 2 tips are add. Add and add. If you add protein and add some leafy greens, some colorful vegetables, the likelihood, and you have regular meals, so that would be the other thing, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, don't skip. If you're someone who can go from breakfast to lunch, but lunch to dinner is a long period, add like a mini meal in the afternoon. So breakfast, lunch, afternoon snack, dinner. Regular meals throughout the day, balanced with protein, fats, and carbs, should keep you fuller for longer. And when it gets to the end of the day, you shouldn't find yourself needing to open the cupboard and look for quick, easy options like biscuits or cheese or chocolates or chippies, whatever it might be. You find that if you are binge eating later in the day, adding protein to each meal, having regular meals, adding vegetables to each meal or as many meals as you can will help balance all of that out. And then, because I can't believe that it's already been 50 minutes, I was certain this would only be 15 minutes long. So this is why this stuff's easy for me to talk about. So feel free to ask your questions if you're still listening. My third tip there, so add protein, add veggies. Third tip, don't drink your calories. If you're trying to be healthier or potentially lose weight or just trying to not overeat, the simplest way to do that is avoid drinking your calories. And so that's in the way of, if you drink full sugar Coke, opting for Coke Zero or Diet Coke is going to be a better option for you in terms of calorie intake and sugar intake for your health. And then from there, if you're someone who drinks juices, like limit the amount of juice that you have. Maybe try and opt for the whole fruit instead. So if you drink orange juice regularly, try and have an orange. The orange still gives you that hit of juice that you might want, comes with a hit of fiber too, which helps balance out that use of the carbohydrates in the fruit in that moment. If you're just drinking the juice, there's nothing to balance that out. You get a big spike and then a big drop afterwards. And it's quite a higher amount of calories in the juice than what it is in the piece of fruit. Jeff, Furphy beer, 350 calories. Great Northern, 75 calories. And that's a great example too. Something as simple as what beer you drink, or even, what was I trying to say there? Like opting for the zero sugar versions of mixed drinks as well can make a big difference if you are going to drink in how many calories you're consuming. But you can go down a whole rabbit hole of seeing how many calories per can or per bottle or per whatever, and check them all out. I think even from memory, Stone and Wood, Pacific Ale, and the heavy Coronas sit around that 120 calories per bottle mark. So even they're higher in calories than even a Great Northern is. So yeah, really interesting, fun ways to go about things there. But I guess I came on here to talk about how marketing can be leading us astray if we don't have a knowledge in the first place, and we just believe that the product that is a breakfast cereal that is a carbohydrate could possibly give us the benefits of a high protein source, when in fact it is still a carbohydrate source. So, and I will continue to be bamboozled by Weet-Bix and Vita-Brits and added sugar and added protein or high protein. But so that reminder, something can say high protein as long as it's got more than 5 grams of protein per serve. And a serve could have, this is extreme, but there's nothing to say that this serve couldn't have 500 calories on it and the product be marketed as great source of protein or high protein or whatever the wording has to be for it to be marketed in that way on that product. It might come with 500 calories still, but as long as it hits that marker and they feel like they can, that's the best way for them to go about advertising and marketing it, because protein is the hot thing right now. It's like there's nothing stopping them from doing that unless there's, you know, nuances with how they market or the wording of the marketing. Cool. Well, way longer than I thought. If you were in here during that, thank you so much. If you commented, I appreciate it. I think I got through them all. Whenever there's conversation in here, it does really help me talk about what might be most appropriate for you. But just to summarize it all, once again, 3 tips from me. Make sure you've got protein at each meal, tip 1. Make sure you're adding veggies to as many meals as you can. So for that good fiber count, that's tip 2. Don't drink your calories, or try and limit the amount of calories that you drink. That's tip 3. And based off this conversation, tip 4 is don't get sucked in by marketing that says high in protein. Just go get yourself a roast chicken and eat that instead. Definitely better than buying yourself Wheat Bix bites that have 10 grams of protein per serve, but way more calories and way more sugar than a full protein source, which is already cooked and ready to go at the supermarket if you choose to buy that rotisserie chicken option. Cool. Thanks, everyone. I hope you found that helpful. If you're listening to this after the fact, don't forget to leave a comment below if you've got any questions, or maybe you want to tell me what sucks you in with its marketing and makes you think, yeah, I do need to buy that. Otherwise, any other questions, and like and subscribe. Thanks for your time.